Hi, Rach.
Done. How are you?
Welcome to your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you've invited, well, hang on, you didn't really invite me to come in and host your podcast for you. I kind of invited myself, didn't I?
You did. And I jumped to the opportunity because I know you're great. So thanks for having me.
We're probably going to giggle our way through this.
100%.
And the reason why I suggested
Yeah.
that you had someone interview, I wasn't actually thinking me to begin with, was like, we want to hear your story. I'm listening to your podcast. I know I'm probably not your target audience. I've also been one of your guests, but I want to hear your story. And I know some of your story because we've been friends for so long.
Yes.
But I also feel like there's a whole chunk of your story that I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to ask
Excellent.
you all the questions.
Well, I'm excited for you to ask me. You did ask me, and I was like, who's going to hear my story? Like, who would want to know my story? I'm more interested in, sharing the stories of others, such as yourself. And as you said, like, I don't know that you're not my audience because I think you might have learned something. I think you did share that you'd learn a couple of things on the shows.
Episodes. Absolutely. I love it.
And thanks for listening to watching my shows as well.
I'm just pumping up those views for you, Rach.
Thanks, Don.
So it's one thing to be behind the microphone as the person asking all the questions.
Right.
And I know that you've got so much wisdom and so many amazing things to share with people. And so
I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it.
That's what we're here for. So
That's
the
it.
first question I'd love for you to share, and I know you've shared it in snippets already,
Right.
is why are we here? Why Thirstee
Yeah.
Coconuts? And
Great question.
like, where did it come from? I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you about 3 questions in one. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course, do it.
Maybe not very good question asker. I want to know why Thirstee Coconuts.
Yep.
Where did the inspiration come from?
Yep.
And I know that you're a very heart-centered person.
Right.
This is a project that is incredibly meaningful to you.
Yeah.
It is, let's call it, purpose work for you.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, like, where did the idea come from?
Yes.
And how did we get here?
Yeah, I mean, great questions. It's going to be a long one because I wasn't prepared to answer this one, but I'm 100% happy to share.
Good.
So the premise behind Thirstee Coconut was that I always had this desire to. Well, firstly, I sought help from you. I think a long time ago, a while back. We were doing a session with you, and it was an energy session, and you helped me understand kind of what are the sorts of things, the why behind who I am and why I do the things that I do. And one of the sessions that I had with you really hit home with me. For the longest time, I knew that I wanted to help people financially only because, and it started out with the finances. I wanted to help people out with that because I struggled so badly for the longest time. And I thought, gosh, what I learned, I wish I had taught others. What I learned, I wish others had taught me.
Yes.
And I would have fast forwarded and I always say this, I know this is controversial, but I do think that financial freedom is freedom. Money equals freedom plus discipline and all the things that come with it. And if you use it for good, then that's a good thing. Money can be used for evil. I'm not that kind of person. But I just wanted to teach people.
Hang on, I'm going to interrupt you. I've heard this said before, and I don't know who, but that money amplifies who you already are.
Correct.
So if you've got a good heart, that money is going to be used
Amplify
in
that.
generosity, and so
100% Don, and that's where I come from when I talk about that. So that was one struggle that I had, and then when I had that session with you, I then realized why I thought the way that I thought. I realized why I wanted to help people. You helped me understand that, I do have the resources to be able to go out and, share my story or share anyone's stories about the challenges they go through in life. And so I said to Zena, I have this passion within me. After attending one of Donna's sessions, I now have this will and I feel compelled to really want to do what I've always wanted to do. And I just don't know how to, I just didn't know how to start it. I didn't know what to
Mm.
call it. I always thought it was a magazine. I thought maybe I'll do it through a magazine or a book. And then I overthought the magazine idea. I was like, yeah, but I'm not a financial advisor. And I don't have the means to rally
Mhm.
up all these people to, sort of help me write this magazine. So I put that to the side and I thought, okay, I still need to do something. I can't just leave it alone and have this thing sitting there dormant. And so I was laying in bed and I thought, what about if I do something online? But I had this fear of going online. I was just like, you know, going out to the world and being on social media was scary. And I would do for Facebook posts on, what I would do generally, but to then do something online and go broader was a bit of a scary moment for me. And Zena sort of helped me think through that. And so I got myself over the line. Okay, I'm going to do something online. What am I going to call myself? Who am I going to be? All that sort of stuff. So I went through a lot of soul searching um, about how I was going to do it, what I was going to do, and then it just
Yeah.
kept going from there.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you bring something to life, you've gone through a huge internal process before it's even launched.
Yeah.
And also, of course, all the work that goes behind the scenes that no one ever sees.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like a birthing process.
Yes.
You're pregnant with these ideas and they're growing in you and you're trying to figure out how it wants to look and
Yeah.
what shape it's going to take. And then you get to the next stage, which is the birth of the idea. And then as it grows over time, and here
You
we are in its,
Yep.
I don't know,
100%.
childhood stages?
Yeah.
Baby stages?
It's in its
Stage?
infancy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty amazing that you got your head around being able to say yes to an online business. I
Yeah.
think that that's something that's pretty common that I see
Mhm.
with people too, around some fear around having being a public figure somewhat.
Yes, exactly. And I think also it was that thing about, you know, going out on my own and not knowing where to start. It was all just overwhelming, but I knew I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It's purpose work. And, sort of after learning, after that session, I just thought, I'm just going to do this. And I spent so much time writing things down. I just kept jotting down, what am I good at? What am I good at? What can I do? If I was sharing something, if I was helping people, if I were helping people, what would that one thing be? And I have this like list on my mobile. And I just kept looking at that list and there was a theme that just kept coming through. And the theme was coaching and the theme was sharing and the theme was teaching. And so I took that theme and I thought, okay, that's the theme I'm going to use. And it's going to be not just about my finances. It's going to be everything that I'd learned in life, but I'm going to bring people on the journey with me. So, that was how that idea was born. And then I said to Zena, my partner, what am I going to call myself? What can I, what am I going to use my name? Like Rachel's, like, where am I going to start with, And so,
Rachel's World.
yeah,
like
I mean,
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World, right? And I thought, when I was a kid, I was always called a coconut. When I was living in New Zealand, that would be a kind of a bit of a racist term that people in New Zealand would call islanders coconuts.
Right.
And I think they still do that actually, but I embraced
Did it feel like, was that more of an endearing
It
term?
felt like an endearing term in the end because I just embraced it. And I thought, you know what, that is true. Whatever the case, I was raised on an island until I was 7. And I climbed coconut trees when I was little. I was a little kid climbing coconut trees. And I quite enjoy eating coconuts. And then I was like, yeah, actually, oh my God, yes, not only was I born on an island, raised with coconuts, I know the benefits of a coconut. So many of us, have coconut in our diets in some way, shape, or form, whether it's Zena drinks coconut water all the time. She has coconuts in her, I don't even know, she's the healthy one. I don't even eat coconuts anymore, but I thought the benefits of a coconut are almost endless. We eat the coconut, we drink the juice, like there's so much you can do with a coconut. And I thought, I feel like that's what I want to do. I want to be that resource, that sort of coconut, to be able to give back as much as a coconut gives to others. I want to be that. And because when I worked at McDonald's as a kid in high school, I met this guy and his name is Derek. I don't know if Derek is
Hi,
around.
Derek.
Yeah, Derek.
Hi.
I was actually infatuated by him because I thought he was just like this. He was like 6'4", and I was this little coconut, and I was just like, wow, you look amazing. And everything that came out of his mouth just made sense to me. And one time he said to me, you've always got to stay thirsty. He was older than I was. I'd only just started at Macca's, and he was like, I was probably 17 and he was 20. And he said to me, you've got to stay thirsty in life. You just got to stay thirsty. And that just stuck with me. And so I combined the two, and here I am, Thirstee Coconut.
That is so
And I
cool.
just think that they're both really good, that they marry together really well.
Yeah.
And I tried to use the actual spelling of thirsty, but that had been out already. So then the next step was, I'm going to try and make sure that, someone's not taking that handle. And I want to use that handle. And then I had to use the 2 E's at the end of it. So here I am. That's Thirstee
Perfect.
Coconut.
I love it. Well, thanks for sharing that, Rach. And I think what is so cool about this, it feels like a real full circle moment for me because we
Right.
have known each other since 2009
Yeah.
when we met in corporate.
Yeah.
And we spent so many lunch times
Yes.
walking together, talking about how we could
We
make
did.
our dreams come true.
100%.
So many times. And so it's, as I said, a real full circle moment to be here sitting with you. And you've always, from the time I've known you, you've always wanted to do something that really gives back to community in some way.
Yep.
And so it's just really awesome to see that you're doing this. And I think as well, do you agree with this, that sometimes it's about the timing, that we need to be in particular places in our lives to be able to create something? Like, what do you feel about the timing that it's taken you, knowing that you've wanted to do something really purposeful for a long time? Why now?
It's a good question. I do agree that it's timing. I think it's a bit of luck. It's a bit of time, and I think it's a bit of. We all have the. It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because there's times where we try to put ourselves in positions that improve our lives, and it just doesn't work out.
Yep.
No matter how much you put into it, for some reason you can't catch a break. And there's times where it just so happens, the universe works for you in whatever way that is. Like you could be willing it, because I'm a willer. I like to will things into my life. I know.
And I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's a bit of self-talk. It's a bit of will.
Yep.
It's a bit of just do it, try it, dust your shoulders off. If you don't, if you fall over, you just get up and do it again. And I do think when you do those things, luck comes your way, and by that time, it is timing. It does become then a sense of timing because you've gone through. I told you just before the interview, it's a rite of passage. You've gone through all of those things in your life that ultimately the right time lands on your side, if that makes sense. So I do agree it is time. And it's like everything, isn't it? Everything takes time. That's not just a cliche. It's actually a fact. But you've got to put the work in, and you've just got to keep trusting yourself that if you fall over, believe in yourself that you're going to do something different.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the qualities that I love about you is your persistence. I feel like you are so driven and motivated, but at the same time heart-centered. That persistence that you have, that grit and determination is definitely a big part of why you're so successful.
Yeah. I do think, sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say,
I'm just
but
gonna talk on through
let's go back in time to, do you want to talk a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing, your background before we hit like the high school area? Like, give us
of course.
a little bit of a rundown of where you've come
high
from.
level. Yeah. I was born in American Samoa, and then my family are from actually Samoa, but my mother was smart enough. Actually, she told me recently that she strategically gave birth to me in American Samoa so that I could have an American passport. And
Bless
she
her
knew
heart.
that. Yeah, she knew that
job,
at the
Mama.
time. Pardon?
Good job,
Oh, I
Mama.
know, because when she was younger, she was given the opportunity to go to the U.S. and live there with her family, and she, at that point in time, she thought, okay, if I'm going to have children, for us to get off the island and have opportunity, you could either go to New Zealand or you go to Australia or you go to the US. And so she decided, I think, when she was pregnant with me, she decided that she would give birth to me in American Samoa.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was
So,
born with an American passport.
wow. I've got
Yeah,
goosebumps. So she was pregnant with you and birthed you in American Samoa, literally, quite literally planting seeds for you to experience growth and
correct.
adventure or opportunities,
Yep.
really, in other countries.
Yeah,
Wow.
hadn't
A
known
real
that.
conscious decision.
Yes, yes.
So
And she
cool.
was only 21. So, even then,
Mm.
we think 21-year-olds are babies, um, and they're going through struggles themselves. But she had that, the future. I guess she just saw her future. She wanted to stay in the US actually, but they couldn't figure out how to do her paperwork to stay there because she was born on the island. And much to her demise, she had to return to the island. And she just thought, well, if she couldn't do it,
Wow.
she'll get me the opportunity,
That's so awesome.
which I never knew. I learned that recently, which is strange. And so I was born in American Samoa. I was raised on the island, raised there until I was 7. And then my mom had already moved abroad to New Zealand and, met her now husband, my
Hang on, what
dad.
age were you when your mum moved?
Um, I feel like I was raised by my grandparents. I feel like I was just a baby.
So you were really young and mum moved over to New Zealand
She
to
moved to New
live.
Zealand.
And you were raised by grandparents.
I was raised by my
And this is
grandparents.
not unusual
It's not unusual
culturally,
in
is
our
it?
culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're raised by a village, right? So, your children are raised by your village. If you've got siblings, your aunt and uncle should very well be very, very much the same as, say, you raising your own children. Like if you pass your child over to your aunt or your uncle, it's the same. You were all brought up in the same household. You all, had the same values. So that's how you would raise your kids.
That's
And that's how
amazing,
it's seen.
Rach. That is what a lot of, I don't know, I didn't have that kind of background, obviously. And I've talked to a lot of my girlfriends who are mums like I am. And we always talk about how we miss that there is a missing of that kind of village and
Yes.
how we can only imagine what that must have been like. So
Yeah.
what was that like for you?
I mean, I didn't know any different. I was raised thinking that my grandparents and my uncles and aunts were all my parents
Yeah.
because they're all the same. My mom is one of 7, I think. Sorry, mom, or one of 6. I never remember. Um, and she'd moved abroad to. I think she had the foresight to want to do better. She didn't want to live on the island and stay on the island, so she'd moved on with her husband. Um, and they made a life in New Zealand, left me and my sister in Samoa to be raised by our grandparents and her remaining siblings that were still living there, quite a few of them. And growing up on the island was amazing. I didn't know any different. I didn't know who I was being raised by. I just knew it was my family. I learned a lot of skills, and I look back at the pictures and I'm using a bloody machete to cut a can open like a can lid. There's a picture of me literally with a machete in my hand trying to cut open a can. It's just what you do on the island. And so I kind of learned how to use my hands, I think. I got the spankings that I was, if I was bad, I was spanked pretty hard. We're Christians. My family in Samoa are Christians. I was raised as a Catholic. So we went to church. So I was raised with those values when I was in Samoa. And then my mom decided to move me across to New Zealand where she was. And I was only there for a while until I was 12 or whatever. And my mom decided I should be educated in the US. And so I did high school in the US and I missed my family, my
Did you go by
immediate family.
yourself?
Yeah, my mom sent me there by myself without choice. I
Where
didn't
did you
actually
live? Was it like a
with
boarding
her
school or
auntie. So
something?
my
Oh,
paternal side, her aunt was already living there. She'd had 15 children in the US, in California, in San Francisco, which is why we keep going there these days.
that all makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I was raised by them,
Yeah.
and I missed my family while I was there. I missed
Yeah, I
my
bet
immediate, I
you
missed my
did.
sisters, my brothers, my parents, and I wrote to my mom and I said I need to be home. Like I want to be home. When you're an islander, I don't know if this happens to many people, but on the islands, but you just do what your parents tell you to do. You trust, you put faith in them, and you just trust that whatever they're putting you in front of is the right thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
When my mom told me I was moving to the US, I was like, oh, why? I quite enjoy where I am. Why do I need to move there? And she said, I think she just said, I want you to go to school there. And I just took that and jumped on the plane and left.
Wow.
Yeah,
So how
by
long were
myself.
That's amazing.
I mean, I think the flight attendants looked after me on the flight because I was obviously very young.
Like probably the biggest flight of your life so far.
Next to being moved as a 7-year-old from Samoa to New Zealand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is only, not so far.
Like I barely learned how to speak English because I didn't know how to speak English when I moved to New Zealand. I was just speaking Samoan.
Oh, right.
So I barely learned how to speak English in New Zealand. I got my foundational education there and it was amazing. I had the best time. Couldn't think of a better place to be raised as a young child. And then I could barely speak English and I was, moved across the US. So you're going from third world Samoa to first world New Zealand to then like super first world US as a young child. I had to grow up really quickly.
I bet you did.
Learned how to eat sushi for the first time. I didn't even know how. I barely even learned what spaghetti bolognese was before I was eating sushi in the US. And, they put this sushi in front of me and I was like, this is in the 80s. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. Gross. It was gross. I didn't like it because I was so used to all my islander food that I was eating in New Zealand and on the islands because, it's what you eat, the traditional foods. And then that was my first exposure to Anglo-Saxon life, if you like, not first exposure. New Zealand was Anglo-Saxon very much, but we still had access to our island food and we were still eating island food. But when I went to the US, that was a complete change for me, like such a life-changing experience for me. And I just had to navigate all the parades and the football games and everything that I was never exposed to in the US, but I really missed my family unit despite all of that. I remember coming into high school and then I was probably year 9 or year 10 when I went to high school in Australia. And then I finished my high school in Australia.
So your mum had moved to Australia by that time?
Yes.
And
so
then,
while I was in the US.
you came and did your last 2, was it HSC back then?
Yeah.
Oh, so the equivalent of VCE now?
Yes, my last 2 years or 2.5 years in South Australia, which is where they moved to from New Zealand.
Right.
While I was in the US, my parents had, sort of felt like they were done with New Zealand, gotten everything they could. They wanted a new life here in Australia. My dad got a job, offer in Australia, and then they both picked up and said, yep, we're out of here. So my parents were like, we're out of here. We're going to South Australia. And that's where I moved from the US to SA.
My goodness. Wow. What a journey. And you're just hitting like teenagehood, really.
Yes.
What kind of effect did living in America and then transferring back to South Australia, what kind of impact did that have on your schooling and how you were faring in terms of, your education and socially?
It's so interesting, actually, because I felt like I got a great education in New Zealand because when I went to the US, I had nothing but great grades. And I felt like that wasn't even a stretch. It was really interesting, the education system. And then coming from the US to Australia, I had to go back a year. I was put back a year, which was interesting.
Because they're half a year. Our cycles are half year, 6 months out anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So that kind of makes sense, I guess.
And I found like the education system in Australia, the difference between that and at the time in the 80s and what I went through in the US was so different. It was far more focused. It was just that little bit more difficult. In the US, when I was in school, they would announce dropout rates, which I found to be interesting. So like when I was in class, every day you would read the newsletter. And in the newsletter, they would have like the number of dropouts of high school, people that dropped out of high school. And then they interestingly listed all the names of people that dropped out of high school.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, wow, this is weird. I've never even
shaming people.
Yeah.
Not sure about, well, they certainly couldn't do that these days.
It was
but
in the
almost
80s,
advertising, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like
totally. It was coming out of the 70s, going into early 80s. And I'd done I'd done 1 year of high school in New Zealand before I was then moved
Oh,
across.
okay, yeah.
So I'd done that. That was where I was telling you that I picked up hard subjects like trigonometry. The education system in New Zealand is almost similar to that in Australia. But going from high school, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but moving into high school here in Australia comparatively was very, very different. The culture is different. The classroom experience is different. The teachers are different. They all care about you, but the way in which they go about teaching you was different.
Mm.
And even the classrooms were different, like in terms of what I experienced in New Zealand versus the US. You go from desks in New Zealand that you open up and you got all your books there to then lockers in the US and you've got no books in front of you. You've just got this little table that's wrapped around you. Such a huge change. And then you come back to Australia and you've got lockers and, you still got desks. But, making friends was difficult because you had to start all over again as a
Mm.
teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was a
Yeah.
bit of a loner actually in high school in here in Australia. The
Right.
US, I was probably a bit of a loner as well. Made a couple of friends, but I was okay with that. So weirdly.
Yeah.
And then in Australia, I was a bit of a loner as well. Had an Aussie mate. She was great. Her name's Karen. She took me under her wing and invited me to her house, and I got to, experience, an Aussie family's, sort of life because I would go to her house and hang out there. So that was pretty cool. Didn't have many friends in high school in South Australia, but I loved it. I don't know why. I just
That's so
enjoyed it.
cool. Do you think that all of those moves cultivated particular qualities in you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what?
Resiliency,
Mm.
the ability to change, sort of just move with change if that ever happened. Also, just learning about other cultures and being, sort of patient with people and having that tolerance,
Mm.
and knowing that not everyone's the same.
Yeah.
So having those, sort of having the exposure to different cultures and people of different backgrounds, you know, really shaped me into who I am today. And it also opened up my eyes to a much bigger world. And it showed me also that there's so much more to life than just, you know, your little circle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
So
really would have broadened your horizons. It would have
totally,
opened your mind and
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about, what you were interested in at school and subject selections and things like that, because I know that's something that you really love to talk to your guests about. What
Mm,
did you choose and what were
mm.
you interested about?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in New Zealand, that first year of high school, I was doing typing, and that was when I wanted to be a secretary. I took up typing subjects. I don't know if I took that up or if it was just automatically allocated. My memory is pretty
It was
poor
a
like that.
it was a proper career selection at that point in
Oh,
time.
100%. And I
Yeah,
think,
for women,
your career options back then were probably far more limited than, say, today.
definitely.
Women couldn't be anything they wanted to be necessarily. Maybe that's not true, but it wasn't as easy.
Definitely.
And your job opportunities were either, white collar jobs or blue collar jobs. My parents worked in blue collar jobs, factories and stuff. I knew I didn't want that. But yeah, I had typing in there and I had shorthand in there, and I felt like I naturally gravitated to those subjects. That when I went into the US, I picked up similar subjects as well.
Mm.
And I knew that I was very good at handwriting in primary school. I always got those awards, like so many. They just piled up, and that was all I would show my mom. Mom, look at my handwriting sucks. I'm not sure what happened, but I was very good at handwriting. I became really good at English. I really enjoyed the typing. I really enjoyed those types of subjects. And then for some reason, I don't know if it was a world experience that I, sort of accumulated in the back of my brain. For some reason, I wanted to learn numbers. I wanted to learn about. I just felt like numbers was a part of my life. My mom taught me times tables, so she taught me how to do times tables, and I was a gun at my times tables in my younger years, and so I took that through to high school as well. So the numbers, the working with my hands, working with business type subjects. I took that into my high school years as well, and then I just picked up business type subjects, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Did I know that I was going to do anything with it? No, I just went with it because I enjoyed it.
That's
I
cool.
felt like that was something I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then where did you end up like studying post secondary school? Did you?
Oh
go to
yeah,
uni,
so I
or-
graduated university. I graduated high school in South Australia in the late '80s, and with a certificate of merit in English. So the highest possible score you could get in English, which is ironic because I wasn't. It's not my first.
It's your second language.
Second
I
language.
didn't know that. That was
Yeah.
yeah. I had a secret intention for our interview today that I
Oh,
would find
okay.
out like three. I shouldn't even tell you this.
Ah,
Like that,
you
I would
should-
find out a few things about you that I didn't know, and
Yeah.
I didn't know that English is your second
Yeah,
language. I
topped
would
English.
never have guessed.
I know. I topped in English, and I was quite surprised by that result. Of all places in Australia, and I got my certificate of merit at the Government House in South Australia, which was really cool. My mom was so proud of me. She paid. She got my grandfather from the island, and he was brought him over,
Oh, that's
and he
beautiful.
was really. The family was so proud.
Yeah.
I even wore a dress. My mom put me in a
Oh
taffeta.
my god, do we have photos of this?
No,
Because
I
I've
don't
never
know.
seen
I don't know
you
if
in a
she has
dress
any
before.
Oh, so many
Zena.
stories. Even with the guy that took me out on a date, I wore a taffeta dress that my mom. Oh my gosh, puffy sleeves. It was electric blue, quintessential 90s. Yeah.
Oh my god, I
Um,
love it. That's
yeah.
so good.
I think by then my mom knew
I
that I
definitely want to
wasn't.
see photos.
I want to see that picture too. Thank God we weren't online then.
I mean, let's also post that in the. Can you like put an image into
If
your
I ever get it.
YouTube video of this?
No way, Jose.
episode?
I mean,
Footnotes in the show notes. Yeah.
footnotes. Yeah, we could do that. I graduated, and what's weird? I actually got into university to study oh my God, industrial relations. I didn't
Did
even know
you?
what the hell industrial relations
Did
was, because you
you?
get the thing at the end, and you
Yeah.
get to like choose what you want to study in uni and stuff. And I was like, industrial relations.
Tick.
That's what I want to do. But then because I was working at McDonald's while I was in high school in South Australia.
Yeah.
And before I started university, I was given the offer by the owner of the restaurant to move to Melbourne at the age of 17 or 18 or whatever it was. I barely graduated high school, Donna. And I'd said I was going to go and study at university doing industrial relations. And then the restaurant owner of the Macca's that I was working at had pulled me into his office and said, "I've got something to tell you. I'm only 18. Like what?" But I was an assistant crew person or something. I was like a crew trainer. I was a senior crew person. I wasn't a manager, but I was a senior.
Yeah.
And
Like a team leader for the staff.
like a trainer,
Yeah,
like a
okay.
senior trainer. I think that's what I was, senior trainer. I had all the stickers on my badges.
I can
Anyway,
see
he
it.
pulled me aside, and I'm so grateful to Bob for this. He pulled me aside and said,
Shout out to Bob.
shout out to Bob May. Anyway, he pulled me aside. He said, I've decided that I'm going to buy a restaurant in Victoria, in Melbourne, and we're selling the one here in Adelaide. It was in Hindley Street in the middle of the city. And I was like, oh, okay. And he said, but the reason I've got you in my office is because I'd like to know if you would come over to Melbourne and be an assistant manager. That was huge news for an 18-year-old to be asked that, to be asked to pick up from home. Like, I was barely out of home, mind you, and then live in a different state. I'd never even been to Melbourne, and I'd never been a manager. And so I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to speak to my mother. So I went home, told my mom, and she said, 100% do it. Like, you should just do it. Go and
Rather
go
than
and-
going to uni?
Yep, just go and do it.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. Because I said to myself, the only person that's going to get me to do it is my mother. If my mother says yes, I'm going to do it.
Really?
Yeah. And she said, yes, do it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but she just told me to do it. I don't know where I'm going to live. I have no money. I just barely moved out myself. I barely have any savings. And my mom just said, do it. And so I went back to Bob and I said, yep, I'm coming. And I had so many friends in South Australia. They were all from private schools. It's little me. I went to a public school, um, Dawes Road High School. All my friends were from Macca's and they were all private school friends, and they loved the fact that I was going. They super celebrated the fact that I was going. Half of them wanted to come with me, and they were like, "Oh, you're going to Melbourne? You're going to be a manager at McDonald's? That's so cool!" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess so." And they said, "Well, let's go and have a dinner celebration." So I reckon I had about 40 or 50 people at this dinner celebration of mine. Such great mates. I loved
Awesome.
so all my mates in South Australia. I had none in school, but they were all at McDonald's. And they put on this massive celebration, and off I went to Melbourne at the age of, by that time I'd turned 19.
Yeah.
No money whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you moved to Melbourne. You left
Moved
your
to Melbourne.
family and all your friends behind.
Yes, everyone.
And you were by your lonesome
Yep, I was.
as a manager in McDonald's.
Yep, no house, nowhere to live, no money.
How did you sort
virtually.
all of that out?
So Bob helped me. He gave me a loan to find accommodation, and I used that. And then I just worked my way around finding rentals with the loan that Bob gave me, and paid him back eventually. And yeah, just rented in Victoria. And I was on a very low income, actually. Macca's, I think those days I was on like $25,000 a year, which was nothing. I barely actually made my rent.
Wow.
Had no furniture, nothing.
Wow.
Absolutely nothing but the clothes on my back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And luckily I found a place that was literally right across the street from the store. So because I didn't have a car, and I didn't actually even bother to get my license prior to moving to Victoria either. So I was this 19-year-old, almost homeless, assetless, moneyless.
You had a home, but nothing in it.
I just had the clothes on my back and my will
goodness.
and
And someone who saw something in you.
yeah, somebody who saw promise.
That, I don't know why, but as you're speaking, it feels like this was a really big turning point in your life in
Massive.
an empowering way.
Yeah.
As much as it must have been challenging.
Yeah. My mom actually, because she'd said yes for me to go, she said, let's get on the bus and take a trip up to Victoria and just have a look around before I moved.
Okay.
Did that, didn't like it, didn't like Victoria. It was wet and cold. South Australia is beautiful Mediterranean weather. And I'd been there 3 years and I loved it.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I don't know if I love this place. I don't like it. It didn't feel good. Victoria didn't feel good. We found a hotel in the city and just rode the trams. I didn't like the trams. I didn't like the weather, Don. And it just felt like Gotham City to me, actually. It was quite dark. Maybe it was because maybe we went in winter.
Must have been in winter.
Yeah, it had to be. So I didn't actually like it, and I was doubting my decision, but I still went with it anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a huge turning point. I mean, in telling you my story, I've had many turning points. All of those changes in my life, and Victoria just happened to be one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you been in Victoria since, or have you had other moves where you've lived elsewhere in between now and then?
No, moved to Melbourne and have been here since 1991.
Oh, so
1991.
how did Melbourne win you over, Rach?
It was just the job. In the end, Melbourne won me over with the footy.
Really?
Yeah, the footy, the culture. I eventually loved the culture. I'm very sporty. I'm a very sporty person at heart. And Victoria became this sporty city. And Victoria became known for, the Grand Prix, the footy, all the events that Victoria always picks up. And eventually, as Victoria started, because when I moved to Victoria, it was a broke city. Victoria was known back then, and oddly, I was always up with politics before I moved to Victoria, and I learned before I'd moved across to Victoria that Victoria was worth not even $1. Like that was just
through
what
the
people.
recession, wasn't it?
Correct. That's
Yeah.
just what people were saying. Like, oh, Victoria's like the city of Victoria is dirty. It was worth nothing, and all that sort of stuff. And I guess I kind of grew up with Victoria in the sense that, it then became when Jeff Kennett became the the premier. He then turned Victoria around, and I felt like I was on that journey as well. And the culture won me over. The sporty culture, the concerts, the big stuff that Victoria would eventually get.
Yep.
Because what the race? So we had the race, we had the Grand Prix, we had the footy,
the horse racing.
yeah,
Melbourne Cup.
Melbourne Cup. We had that. Victoria was becoming, well known for all these amazing world events, and then it had all the concerts, and I loved going to concerts. And then I started learning about the arts, and I started going to theater shows, and so Victoria won me over for all those things.
Yeah, that's so
And
cool.
then at that point in 2000 or 1999, before the .com era, I considered myself a Melburnian. So it had been 7 or 8 years before I got a footy team. So, I thought Geelong was my footy team, and I ended up going with the Crows. So now I support the Crows because, Adelaide's has a special place
Still
in
in
my
your
heart.
heart,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. So the footy won me over in the end, among many things.
That's really cool. I think if you've adopted a footy team, Melbourne's adopted you,
Exactly right.
right? So what happened then in terms of your career and your life from working as a manager at McDonald's?
Yeah, I stuck with that for 17 years, and I eventually
17
Yeah,
years?
totally. I went there as an assistant manager, like the most junior management position you can have, and eventually worked my way up and became a restaurant manager, which is running the whole gig from, end to end, and being responsible for over 100 people under you, ultimately. Worked at McDonald's in Noble Park, the
That would have
southeastern
been
suburbs.
pumping.
It was pumping. We were a 24-hour establishment by that point.
Yeah, right.
When I became the restaurant manager, we were turning over $4 million a year, and so I had to make sure that restaurant was profitable. I think actually my first restaurant manager gig was in Waverley Gardens Shopping Centre.
Right.
Actually, that was my first opportunity. Bob said, "Okay, I've got a store for you. You're gonna go and manage Waverley Gardens Shopping Centre." I was like, I don't really want to. I'm used to working at Noble Park, 24-hour establishment. I don't want to go and work in a food court. But that was the best thing for me. I ran a food court, went in there, and it was barely making money. And my task was to make money in the restaurant. And, I had like 35 people under me, had to do all the rostering and open the store, close the store, all that sort of stuff. I really grew up and learned how to be a true professional and run a business when I was given Waverley Gardens Shopping Centre to run.
Wow, that would have been such awesome skills thinking about that.
It was.
Yeah, amazing.
I would have.
And how to make it profitable. Like life skills.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Wow.
I had to do all the ordering, all the rostering, all of the equipment, look after all the equipment, the maintenance, the whole thing, look after the entire restaurant, hiring and firing. Yeah, it was a really good experience. And that's when I learned, that was when my business skills came into play. Everything I'd learned in school, all the numbers. What I liked about McDonald's was if you like numbers and if you like detail and if you like how things are measured, that's a great place to start your career.
Yeah, right.
Because at Macca's you measure everything.
Yes.
Everything, the waste, how much you're making, like every single penny you measure. And that's how I learned how to be frugal. That's how I learned how to manage money. It's how I learned how to count money. It's how you know what I mean? Like
That's so
how I
cool.
learned how to spend it. And it's how I learned how to manage people and how I learned how to deal with parents, children of parents, because these kids are only 18, 15, 14.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not just dealing with the kids, you're dealing with their parents as well. So it was I grew up there.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Bob saw that I was able to make good money out of Waverley Gardens. So I turned that place around. We used to have full fields, they call them full fields, which is where they get consultants from the company come down and do a full rundown of your restaurant, like go really deep in your restaurant, your P&L, all of the calibrations of the equipment, everything, your cleanliness, your quality, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that would be over the course of a week, and then they would give you this outcome, 3 ratings, and I needed to hit AAA, and I got the AAA at Waverley Gardens, and I think Bob just was like, okay, you're going to Noble Park. And I was like, I don't want to go to Noble Park. I like Waverley Gardens.
I've just got it really good.
I got it really good. I got my rhythm going.
Yeah.
I even used to bring Tia when she was a little kid to the times when I would have to do month end and count all the stock. And I was in a rhythm, and he put me into the bloody 24-hour establishment, much larger, many more people, 100 people, 24/7. And, it was prone to robberies and gunpoint
Oh my
and stuff like
gosh.
that. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to Noble Park. So he put me there, and I ended up making money there as well. We had a full field, our AAA full fields.
Yep.
And yeah,
This is like a Michelin star rating, pretty much, isn't it?
pretty
But for
much.
Macca's.
Got the AAA at Macca's and made money, and then I was so funny how I got out of it because it'd been 17 years, and I said to Zena, I can't keep doing this all my life. I can't keep doing this my whole life. I was known as the person who was going to live and die at Macca's. When people went, worked at Macca's and left and had their own careers, they would come back and they say, oh, you're still there?
Yeah.
And I said, I know, I've got a mortgage now, so I'm going to die here, I think. And it was sad. Even when I was saying it, I didn't like it. And we went on a conference to Las Vegas for work. And then Zane and I extended that out to a stay. And I bawled my eyes out in New York. I said to Zena, I can't go there. I was crying so much. I didn't know how to get out of it because it'd been all I knew from high school, right?
Yep.
I didn't do uni.
Yep.
But I did study during McDonald's. They put you through these courses, these intense courses that teach you about business. And you learn everything, the books.
Yeah, right.
And you have to graduate. I graduated from Hamburger University. They actually have a university.
Is it called Hamburger University?
It is called Hamburger
True.
University. I was flown to Sydney, go through an intensive university type environment where you go to lectures as well, and you
right.
do the books, like
Wow.
what we called MDPs, and they were like this thick, and you had to do absolutely everything in there. It was super intense about business, how to run a business, how to run people, how to. If you can imagine the toughest training that you ever went through, that was what we did.
Wow.
And you couldn't go to the university unless you'd completed your prior modules. So you'd go to these intense courses that they would hold in head office. You do the learning, the theory, then you have to come back in the store and implement everything you learned. And then you graduated and you went to, ultimately made your way up to Hamburger University, HU. And so I graduated from Hamburger University, and I've still got that little plaque.
Yeah.
You graduated from that, and then that's when you can run your own stores. But I was already running stores by then, before I'd graduated. So coming home from the US was a real turning point for me.
Yeah.
On that holiday with
Zena.
Zena.
To hit those, that rock bottom. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And I think it's not something that a lot of people share about.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice to hear you talk about it. And I think it's relatable for a lot of us. And sometimes it just takes hitting rock bottom to, really say to yourself, I can't do this anymore, or I have to make that change. And so what was it where did you go from there? I'm so curious.
Yeah. Came home. We'd had just built our house that we're here now in the studio. Zena and I just built our house from scratch, which is the most amazing feeling. You know what it's like to have a mortgage. It's a sinking feeling. You go, oh my God, I've got a house, got my own house, but then I've got this massive mortgage. So we just built our house, and I couldn't do my job anymore. And I went there, and I said to Zena, that's it, I'm quitting. And I didn't have a job to quit to, but I had a mortgage.
The leap of faith.
Took the leap of faith on.
Some people do it, some people don't. Did you feel like you had a choice?
No, I didn't feel like I had
it.
no choice. Not for me.
Yeah.
For my own mental state, I just couldn't. I'd run out of gas.
Yeah.
Just in every way possible. In the sense that I knew that I was more than where I was. And I'd gotten everything I needed out of McDonald's. I needed to do something else, move on.